Hello and welcome to the Healthcare Online Podcast. My name is Megan Walker and I'm delighted to welcome Damien Adler, who is the co-founder of Power Diary, to our chat today. Hey Damien, how are you?
Hello, good, thank you, Megan. How are you?
Very, very well. This is a super exciting podcast where Damien and I have met and we couldn't land on a few topics because there's so much. Damien has a wealth of expertise working with private practices. He's also a registered psychologist. So we've come up with some questions. We've got the background that we're going to cover first, and then we're going to put the lights on, rapid fire, and see how much amazing content that we can cover to give all of you listeners terrific value in our conversation. So Damien, start off. Tell us about you, and for anyone who lives under a rock, tell us about Power Diary.
I'll give you the super truncated version. So yes, I'm a psychologist. My wife is also our background. We worked in the public system, then moved into our private practice. And so my wife and I grew a fairly large private practice. Along the way, in the early days, we realized there wasn't the right software solution. And long story short, along with my brother, who was the co-founder and has a tech background, we co-founded Power Diary. And Power Diary is a software platform that really makes it a lot easier to run practices. So I think as our audience would well know, there are lots and lots of moving parts and lots of things to kind of manage in running a health practice. And the idea with Power Diary is simple online platform, takes all that, simplifies it, brings a bit of order to the chaos.
Beautiful. And just for those who don't know, what does it do other than diary management? Because I bet there's a heck of a lot.
Yeah, it does pretty much everything. So yes, diary management, all the things that go with that, like your automated binders and confirmations and so forth. But it also does invoicing, it does letter writing, it does notes, it does online forms, it does, you can process your payments through that. You can manage things like, your wait lists. You can develop automations to kind of, keep everything kind of ticking along. If you're doing debt collection, things like that, it will kind of run all of that for you. It will generate all your statistics. So if you want to see how practitioners are performing, retention rates, things like that, it will do all of that. It will give you all your financial reports. It will tell you where your patients are coming from. It will manage your referrals. It will track your session numbers. It will work out, against budgets and things. If patients have budgets and have funding allocated, it will track those. So it does the full gamut of things. And we try and we sort of look at what are the annoying, time-consuming things of running a practice, and then we try and use technology to simplify that. So things like writing notes, you can have kind of templates. So it's all, there. If you're writing letters to GPs, you can again have templates and pre-populates a whole bunch of content and merges it all in. You can, if you're writing a clinical note, you can copy any previous clinical note into a new note. So you can just edit the parts if you want.
I love it.
Do with the current. So pretty much we look at all the things that kind of cause headaches or that people find time-consuming, distracting, and we try and simplify it.
And tell me the size of the practice that works with you. What size are they? Where are they? What do they do? Tell us about your subscribers, your clients.
So allied health is our primary focus. So sort of think of psychologists and physiotherapists, massage therapists, speeches, dietitians, osteopaths. That allied space is our core business. Practice size varies significantly. So we have solo practitioners all the way through to multi-location and franchise models where people are all over the place and have locations everywhere. So it really does scale to suit whatever someone needs. It will grow with them. A lot of our we've been around for a long time, so a lot of our practices started out as solo, and now they've got lots of locations and they're offering telehealth, which is another thing I didn't mention that Power Diary does for you. So it has built-in telehealth, and they'll be running all over the place. In terms of our customer location, we started in Australia as an Australian company. And then over time, we went to UK, and so we have really good and growing user base UK, and then in North America as well. So US and Canada, we have that. So it's taken up, and we're in a bunch of other countries as well, but they're the main sort of markets and where the bulk of the customers are. And that actually happened organically. That people were using us in the UK and using us in the US, and we're like, oh, okay, there's there's a need here. What's that all about? And then now we have local support and whatnot in each of those countries to make sure that people are getting local support from local people. And, so it's grown over the years.
And do you have a modest achievement in there that you haven't mentioned? It's something about the largest telescope.
Yes. So there's I think what you might be alluding to perhaps is our G2. So G2 is an online, the largest sort of rating system for software companies, and it's where people go on and rate software across all sorts of different categories. And we over time and now are rated the number one in the world for which is amazing. And that's not even to say that the largest. There are practice management systems out of the US that are actually larger than us in terms of size. So that we'll have, although we're growing rapidly, we are. But this is about the feedback from users around usability, about the difference it makes to their practice, about our support, or like a whole bunch of kind of metrics, and they look at that. And they have some magic formula that they use to sort of assess and rank. And we were surprised. You work away and do the best you can. And we saw that we were moving up through the ranks. And then about December 2023, we hit that number one spot. And it's really really and we're so appreciative. But our customers and that they get on there and make those ratings and give that feedback, and that's such a we're very appreciative of what they what they do, and it's great.
Huge congratulations to you. Running any type of business and achieving that level of success where it's based on user feedback is massive. So hats off. I'm glad I got that out of you.
Thank you.
And if you took I'm going to ask you this question. I was going to ask you, what problem do you solve for your practitioners, clinicians and therapists? But I'm going to ask it in a reverse way. If you took 3 of your features away from Power Diary, what would cause the biggest uproar? Which 3 would cause the biggest uproar among your current clients?
I think I'm going to not say like the core booking function, because I think that obviously that's a central part of the calendar management. So I'm going to think about the other sort of things that we do. I think probably the client portal, is one. So we have a client portal that allows people to manage their own bookings and manage even their own invoices and things on there, so that people can go on and pay invoices, but still whilst giving the control, practices still have control to set all the rules around bookings and cancellations. So it's not like handing over and allowing patients to have free range to your schedule and then feel like you've lost control. But practices can still control everything, but it just reduces so much sort of admin time that it is, phenomenal. Next, I would say, and there's so many, but I would say the online forms would be another one, right? Because online forms are a secure form that kind of gets sent out to patients. They complete that, and you can customize and ask whatever you want. And then that all gets, when the patient completes it, it gets stored securely in their profile. But it also updates a whole bunch of the fields in the system. So when you're collecting information and all of that gets populated in, so all the date of birth and demographics, but a whole bunch of other stuff as well gets stored in there. So it just means that all that is done. You don't have to have people typing in and updating kind of information manually. So I think that would be one. Another one would be, and it's sort of like up there, I would say our SMS communication system is second to none. So we have the normal appointment reminders, which you'd expect, right? But we also have, when people reply to SMSs, we automatically update the status of the appointment, so people can reply, confirm, and or cancel if the practice allows it. And then automatic things can happen based on that. So we can notify the practitioner, hey, this person cancelled and so forth. But we also have this sort of live two-way SMS chat. So think of like your iPhone, if you're having a chat with a friend, that type of interface that the panel opens up. So you can have this rapid back and forwards with patients. So when you're thinking about scheduling or moving appointments, or, hey, don't forget to bring the referral from your doctor, you can actually just quickly message them, and have that go back and forwards. It all gets stored in their record as well, so you comply with all the record keeping obligations and so forth. And so that is huge. And it just, again, it reduces admin time. Like if you try and play phone tennis, right? I've got a cancellation, you ring up and leave a message, the person doesn't answer, then they ring you back, you may or may not be able to answer the phone, then they leave a message, and then still you haven't filled that spot. Whereas if you message and say, hey, I've got a spot, do you want to, or hey, I've got a cancellation, do you want to move up, or do you want to, any of that stuff is so...
That's fantastic. I mean, all of that, like you said, that back and forth, what a waste of time. And I'm so delighted to hear your electronic forms. I know we had a big assessment we had to do in our family, and the form came in post. We had to fill it by hand. We were asked to scan it, send it back. Thank goodness we had a home office, but how many people have that level of technology? Very few would have printers and scanners. And and then repeating that information over and over again, it really is a negative impact on that practice as well as the patient experience. So thank goodness you have written it. Well, hi there, just popping in with a little message for you. If you're an allied health professional, specialist GP or specialist, and you're interested in creating your own healthcare course for your private practice, then I'd love to share with you my brand new free masterclass called 5 Secrets to Create and Sell a Healthcare Course. Now, everything that you learn inside this masterclass is 100% aligned with the AHPRA advertising guidelines and equivalent best practices. So head over to meganwalker.com/5 secrets, the number 5 secrets. So meganwalker.com/5 secrets and join the masterclass today. Now we're going to, have you got a glass of water there, Damien?
Look, I do, right here.
You are on the spot here. So you've got huge amounts of wisdom around all aspects of owning and running a practice. You've had a successful practice yourself as well. So let's run through a few of these in, a little relatively rapid fire. So the first one I'm going to ask you is, how can practice owners increase the value that they offer team members or contractors who are working with them without increasing the amount of money that they're paying to those contractors? This is an interesting one. I know I've got a client who says, I'm having to pay more and more and more for my psychologists. They're pricing me out to the point where I'm actually not taking home an income because I'm paying them so much that I'm not earning anything. But I know if I don't do it, they're going to leave and go to my competitor.
Yeah.
What do we do?
The first thing is, I think, is a mindset thing around this, in that I think, like, if your focus is I want to attract or retain people just by pay, what you ultimately end up doing is attracting mercenaries, right? And the mercenaries are going to go where the pay is highest, and if that is their primary driver, is around, and they're going to go to a competitor simply because the pay is higher, then and nothing else is important to them. Mm-hmm. Then you've got a mercenary there, and I'd rather have mercenaries elsewhere and not in my practice, right? Because there'll be no loyalty, there'll be no commitment to it. It'll just be about the money. Now, it's not to say money isn't important. Of course, you've got to be within a reasonably competitive range, but that definitely is off a long way from people that are paying top dollar and just trying to attract and siphon off. Right? So first thing is, I think, move away from that idea that, and if people threaten sort of to go elsewhere, have a good look at it, but bye-bye.
Yes.
I think that and often, people find that the reality of being elsewhere, there's a reason that they're having to pay top dollar to retain, right? So I think, first of all, is getting that. But in terms of what you can actually do, is to try and think of your practitioners as customers, right? And identify what's important to them as a customer, right? So and you look at it from their perspective. Now, what we typically find is that there's a whole, that they don't like having the annoying parts of running a practice, right? So practitioners, you go to do your study, you have a picture in your head of what being a practitioner is going to be like. It's going to be, and you picture being in the room, whatever, providing treatment to a patient. That's what people think about. They don't think about, no one ever goes to uni and study to be, to do paperwork, do all the admin, but that's a reality that comes with it. So if you can deliver that idealized vision of what being a private practitioner is like by taking away from their responsibilities as much of the annoying stuff as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And that can be either, probably a combination of things of, utilizing software, of course, but also it may be the things that can't be done, by having good admin support, within the practice to sort of take away as much as you can. So thinking things like, invoicing, debt collection, the way notes are written, because they might have to write it, but if you make it super efficient, structured and easy, right? Dealing with the legal stuff that comes up, dealing with, any of that kind of, chasing up, dealing with a complaint, all those sorts of things. Strip all that away and provide that kind of service where they can come into work, do the thing that they always wanted to do, and leave.
Yeah.
Right. But that, if you do that, you'll find you're 80% of the way there.
Yeah.
Then the other, oh, sorry, I just said the other. Sorry, if you want to say, yeah.
I was just going to add to that, but also communicate the value of what you're taking off them. Because I know a lot of situations where someone will go, well, I want to earn the whole amount. I don't want to just earn a portion. So I'm going to go and set up my own shop, and then not realize all of the hidden costs that they were being saved. So
Absolutely.
When you join us, here's the table. We will take all of this off you, which will save you and get some of that reality. What are your thoughts about that?
No, totally. And in fact, there's a value creation here too, because if you're in a group practice, for instance, or you're running a group practice, you can do all those things more efficiently, because you can, then for everyone, then someone can do by themselves, right? So, for instance, you have, as a group practice, you may have a bookkeeper, right, who's doing a lot of stuff. But then it doesn't make, it's more efficient to do that for multiple than to have, if you're a solo practitioner, to have a bookkeeper. So you can actually genuinely create value here where you can provide that for cheaper than what they can do it on their own. But the value to the person is high, because if they were on their own, they're going to have to do that. Yeah. Right. So there creates a value there, which allows you to, make a profit, right? Which is important. So I think that side of thing. The other side, right, is looking at things like and it sort of ties into it, but the flexibility and the sort of support around the practitioner. So clinical decision making, difficult interactions, or patients that might be challenging, risk scenarios that come up, right? These are the sort of things that play on practitioners after hours that they worry about, right? So where you can create value is creating a team atmosphere where and having a sort of a hierarchy, not necessarily in terms of just managerial, but in terms of that you can escalate an issue, right? So that, if there is a problem or a risk scenario that pops up, that the practitioner can, one, debrief, but two, by talking to the practice owner, whoever might be designated as a senior person, it's not that person has to have all the answers, or not even that the person assumes all the risk either. But often the standard when you're evaluating clinical interactions is, did you do what a reasonable practitioner would do in similar circumstances, right? That's sort of often the standard that's used to evaluate the response to risk and so forth. When you're then getting immediate or close to immediate consultation with colleagues or with a senior person, you're going a long way to establishing, like, I did this, I checked it then with the senior person, they also agreed that this was a reasonable thing to do in the circumstances, right? And so you're creating this sort of support, safety net, if you like, that you don't get when you're on your own, right? Yeah. And it's not the same on your own and just calling a colleague or a friend and running a path, because yes, that's still good and encourage people to do it, but don't have options. But it's not the same as within our organization, these are the escalation points, right? And that peace of mind, provides it's a lot of value, right? Because they feel a lot more secure, a lot more, safe. So there's that element. And the other thing that I would say that creating value is around the benefits of a team overall, right? So sharing knowledge, having that social kind of element, the debriefing element, even depending on the people, but even that little bit of dark humor sometimes that it's actually can be quite healthy. Right? So
debriefing.
You've got a bit of debriefing, a bit of like be able to talk to someone who understands some of the the intricacies of providing healthcare in challenging circumstances at times. So having that kind of space, having things like internal education sessions where maybe a different person presents their passion topic, or they go to a conference and they come back, and create a space and time for people to kind of talk about that, share the knowledge, even do case conferencing as a group, where, obviously you deal with the confidentiality elements of that, but it's all very manageable, and get collegial input on some of those challenging cases, right? So all of those things create, you put it all together, it fits the lifestyle, it gives the support, it creates a team atmosphere. And often, I think it's important that practices have a sense of vision and a purpose, right? So they also have binds the ethos, if you like, together. So you put all those things together. Money, of course, remains important, but it's not the driving thing.
No, you've created such a beautiful, mentally healthy workspace as well, and that has enormous value. That it hasn't cost you any hard dollars. It has costed time, but then it's reduced your retention. You're keeping the right people and nurturing them.
Absolutely, yeah. And it provides such a contrast, right? If people do leave, sometimes people will leave, they'll go to a high-paying, competitor that's offering, crazy high money. But then what's quite handy when that happens occasionally, because that person goes, they may have taken for granted all those wonderful things you're doing. They're still in contact with the people that work for you, right? Yes. And they go, oh my God, I'm so stressed. We have to do our own debt collection. If we don't get the customers and pay us, patients and pay us, we don't get paid. Like I thought that, say in our practice, we would deal with it separately. If a patient didn't pay us, we would still pay the practitioner, right? Because we'd say, well, our job is to follow up on the money. That's our responsibility. That's part of the service, that we're offering. So then if they did leave, they went to, then suddenly that contrast, and it's quite healthy and positive, because then people start to appreciate.
Yes.
And it's the same when someone joins you that has been often bounced around a few practices that have really bad kind of vibe about them and a bad, and then they go, oh my God, this is heaven, right? Because
I'll never leave.
I'll never leave, right? And I mean, we had retention, like our psychologists would be with us for years and years and years. It was very, very high when everyone else was complaining about sort of, the turnover and all the stuff that happens in the industry.
Wow. And you are in such a great position to have, you're so hands-on having had your own practice, but you get to see over the fence into thousands of different practices. What do you think are your top 3 recommendations to create a really efficient, streamlined practice? What would be your top 3?
Yeah, I think it would almost go back to the things I was talking about before about the kind of client bookings and getting as much of that admin as you can automated. So that kind of using that client bookings, getting that online forms going so people are collecting information sort of efficiently and securely. I think I would also put into that automating payments as well where you can, and a lot of other practice management systems will have options as well, but you can get people paying, via credit card, online, getting all of that sort of done. It just takes out so much headache, and speeds up that front end, the reception area or something that, it means that people are booking online and paying online. The claiming process, say in Panorama, if they're doing a Medicare or doing you can just click the button and it submits all the claims and everything. So you can do most of it, have it all done super streamlined. And then, if there is a claim involved, click the button and do it. That just keeps everything kind of running, smoothly. It means that one admin person, if you're taking phone calls, they're not tied up with all sort of, they can actually, they're more available for phone, to take phone bookings, things like that. So the whole thing kind of runs more smoothly.
Brilliant. Oh, so good. And I think as we're getting tight on time, we need to do a part 2, Damien, if that's
Sure,
okay with you.
Absolutely.
But something that I hear a lot about, when I talk to my own therapists and clinicians and practitioners is really different opinions around no-show policies. So let's talk about this, and then I'm going to get you to explain to people how they can find out more about Power Diary and get started with you guys. But I've seen things like, oh, yes, we're going to charge them the full amount. We're going to give them a 72 hours notice period. We're going to give a 24. It seems to be so inconsistent. Have you got a view on no-show?
I do. And it's not to say, look, this is just what I think tends to work well. And, is a 24 to 48 hour window. So depending on the practice and the nature of the thing is to have a 24 to 48. And I would say that's during business hours, right? So depending on what your capacity is over the weekend, but you can ask for that needs to be on Friday if it's Monday. Okay. Depending on the practice, but if you can, the offer of or making people aware that telehealth is available as an alternative for a particular session, right? Because that often, sometimes the barrier to someone attending an appointment is something like, what a sick child, right? Which you can understand, but they can actually still do telehealth.
Yes.
Right. And by setting that up in advance and having that is good, because then it reduces the incidence of this kind of happening. Right. But I'd also say that looking at full fee, right, without that. And we could get into a whole sort of discussion. I know some people sort of say that it's too harsh, et cetera. But no, I think, if you get those things there, it's important that it's very clearly articulated at the start. It's agreed to in writing, and that there's context put around why that is, why it's important. And then it's reinforced throughout. So making sure that if you do have people come into a waiting room, or you've got reminders about, that there, so that it just sort of keeps it fresh in people's mind around, that. So I think if you do all of those things, the way I view it, people are buying time. When they book an appointment, they are buying time, and time is perishable. Right, it's not something. So when you kind of, you can't sort of buy a piece of fruit, right? Take it home, right? Let it sit there, right? And then, decide I'm going to return it because now that fruit is sort of aged and it doesn't have the value, right? Okay, you bought it, right? And essentially, when you book an appointment, the closer you get to the actual appointment time, it's becoming the capacity to reuse that is rapidly, diminishing, right? So yes, all those things happen in life that it's not that someone can't be bothered turning up, but all those things happen. Understand that. But that's sort of a risk that the patient takes, not the practice, right? When you book an appointment time, you're assuming that risk because the alternative is that you have to charge so much. Everyone has to, pay a lot more, right, to cover lost income from those shows. And that's not fair, right? It really should. Only the people that are unable to attend their appointments for whatever reason, in my view, should be the ones that wear the cost of that. And that's just part of life. The same as, I got called into work. Okay, that's fine. But you've made a decision to prioritize attending work versus that. That's okay. But there is a cost attached that one should, it shouldn't be a matter of passing that to the practice.
Interesting. So good. Yeah. Okay, I love it. I love the fact of talking about time as perishable and whose responsibility is it. Yeah. So good. We have got more to cover, but I think we'll put a pin in it there because you and I are great talkers. We've got things to talk about with personal boundaries, separating self-worth when we're charging, thoughts on expanding the practice and diversifying. And I've even thought of just another one of NDIS charging and non-NDIS client charging. We could go on for days. Let's park it there, Damien, because you've imparted so much wisdom. I love what you've said about increasing the value for team members and changing the conversation from money-based. Yeah. I love your efficiencies for streamlining operations. I mean, if you can get all of those cogs moving through automation and technology, what a breath of fresh air. And your thoughts on no-show policy have been so helpful. it's such a good reminder to get out of that space of, and these are just closing thoughts I'll get you to touch on. This is not a free service that our clients are offering to the community. Yeah. These are businesses that have to run profitably.
Yeah.
Tell us your final thoughts about running a proper business, charging, not letting money get in the way, and then we must wrap up. Tell us, how can people get in touch with Power Diary? So,
yeah, sure.
Over to you.
Look, I think that, when you look at it broadly, you need practitioners need to be in a good mental space to do the work that practitioners do, right? And, when we sort of extrapolate that out and we look at how that impacts, they need to be in a position where the business is running as a business, is generating, income, profit. It's not causing financial stress. It's not encroaching on, the practitioner's life, whether you're the practice owner or you're the practitioner providing services. Right. So, sort of thinking about that, is really about the practitioner well-being is where it all starts and ends. Right? Like,
so true.
It has to be there, because you can't provide, good service in a sustainable way if practitioners are not happy and in a good place.
Yeah, like a damaged product, isn't it? They are the product. If that product gets damaged, then the whole business has nothing to sell.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been going for a long time, but we're short on time, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But I think in terms of Power Diary, people can jump on our website, powerdiary.com, and they can learn all about us. We've got a whole bunch of blog content on there too. So we love to go into all different areas of running practices and how you can make things more efficient, not just based around using software, but actually other areas as well. So if you're interested, jump on there and have a look. And we have a bunch of webinars and things we've done. So
fantastic, Damien.
Starting point.
Thank you so much for what you do and the business that you run. Obviously, you care very deeply about your clients and their success, and then the impacts that they're making in communities with positive healthcare. So thank you so much for sharing some of your golden nuggets that you've accumulated over the years. And we look forward to seeing you soon. And it's powerdiary.com. Thank you, Damien.
Thank you, Megan.